इस ऊंचाई से।
भारतातले पहिले अंतराळवीर.
Fearless.
A true example of humility and respect.
It's surprising that a country of 1.4 billion, there's only one man who went to space.
It's like having a purpose higher than yourself.
I was looking for a career that was challenging, adventurous, exciting, with a bit of ism, something with honor.
Welcome to Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma.
What you have been. I mean, all of us call it Vicky.
I was the 128th guy to go into space, so I feel.
My friend is saying that I was taken for a ride. I wasn't probably the most confident macho fighter pilot of the Indian Air Force. I used to dream in color when I was young. First I became a production test pilot with 5 years experience. And then I became an experimental test pilot with 8 years experience.
आपके कार्य का बहुत बड़ा महत्व है.
Now I've not been following the record book.
He was awarded India's highest peacetime military decoration award, the Ashoka Chakra, by the Indian government. He was also awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union and the Order of Lenin by the erstwhile Soviet government.
Well, I was nonetheless.
It's quite unforgettable.
Because you got to be a step ahead of the game.
Who knew that one day his journey would inspire millions of people around the globe to look towards space? Will forever be remembered for as long as we continue to reach to the stars.
That's the way to go about it.
When you have the tricolor on your arm, your performance goes beyond your potential.
Welcome to Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma.
बहुत कम बार ऐसा होता है that I had his picture in my textbook and my daughter also has his picture in her textbook, and sir, I am sure her daughter also will have your picture in her textbook, because some people are immortal, something that you have done. So we all are very fortunate कि आज हमें आपसे मिलने का मौका मिला. हम questions से पूछे तो पहली बात हम ये कहना चाहते हैं.
शुरुआत से पहले I want to say a few words, and I want to let the audience know that I have been greatly humbled, and this event has been an eye-opener for me, and I must thank Manju ji for making sure that I'm here. When I returned back from space, one of the first interviews that I had done was with Doordarshan, और उनके एंकर ने मुझे पूछा था कि भाई ऐसा है आपकी इतनी प्रशंसा हो रही है ऑल ओवर इंडिया, एंड मेरे को तो लगता है कि आप अमिताभ बच्चन से भी मतलब आगे चले गए हो. तो मैंने उनको उस समय ये जवाब दिया था कि बच्चन साहब अपनी जगह हैं, मैं अपनी जगह हैं, और फ़र्क ये है कि बच्चन साहब जो हैं वो स्टार हैं, यानी कि वो स्काई में हर वक्त दिखाई देंगे, और आपको पता है आज भी दो ही इज़ 80+, ही इज़ ऑलवेज इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस. और मैं जो हूँ मैं मीटियोराइट हूँ, यानी कि वन स्टार वंडर, एक दफ़ा गया हूँ, और आज आपको सबको पता लगा होगा कि whether it is RIPR McGovern, whether it is Manju ji, whether it was Dr. Mashlekar, the kind of work these people have done, the body of work which is in front of us, their words have humbled me. The body of work which they have done is absolutely phenomenal, and each word they have spoken has resonated with me because their whole focus, and indeed the focus of Rotary, and it has been very educative also because I have always didn't have, shall we say, the kind of picture of Rotary as I have been given today, and I've been a recipient of, and I'm very happy that I have been here. So this is the difference, and I am, once again, I'd like to thank Manjuji for calling us, and Mr. McGovern, it's been a pleasure meeting with you and to know all of you and the kind of work you're doing. And in today's world where everything is measured on the metric of return on investment, I must compliment each one of you primarily because return of investment for all of us really is the number of lives that have been impacted for each rupee spent. And I think the Rotary is doing a great amount of work in that domain. Thank you for giving me the time, and now I'm ready for your questions.
एक और चीज़ ऐड करना चाहूँगा सर, अमिताभ बच्चन जी हीरो है, आप नेशनल हीरो हैं। तो एक चीज़ मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, there were no modern computers, no smartphone, no Google Map, no internet, and still you decided to go to space in 1984. तो आपको कुछ डर नहीं लगा इस वक्त?
देखिए, ऐसा है कि जो नई चीज़ होती है ना, उसकी एक्साइटमेंट अलग ही होती है। और मैं ये आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि जब मैं गया था करीबन 35 साल का था, और फ्लाइंग मेरी शुरू हुई थी 20 साल की उम्र से। सो 15 साल मैं ऑलरेडी सर्विस में, I was already with the Indian Air Force, and very quickly I kind of moved up. I was very lucky to always have been selected at a fairly young age and given tasks which normally are reserved for the more experienced people. But there is always a reason for that, and like Manjuji in her presentation has been saying that even stuff which I never ever dreamt would happen to me, those opportunities kept falling in my lap, and I was I had the good sense to not get intimidated, because again, like Dr. Mashlekar has said, I mean, if you don't try, there's no way you can succeed. So here was an exciting opportunity. Who would like to go into space? At that time I was, 128th, and today 650 plus humans have gone into space, which is of course quite a very small percentage of the world population. And so this was an opportunity which was beyond fear. I was already a test pilot. I was already doing that kind of exploratory work. I was already aware that risk is something we can always, through our processes, make sure that to the extent possible we can de-risk whatever which has never been done before. So all these things came together, and that was my mindset. So it was more excitement, and well, there was no fear, because test pilots keep doing stuff which they've never done before, and I'm not the only one. There are so many test pilots around.
तो आप सबको बता दूं 128, बट इंडिया के पहले और एकलौते सर. So that matters a lot for us. You have been the first Indian. एंड इनकी स्पेस जर्नी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. इसको हम थोड़ा क्लाइमेक्स के लिए रखेंगे. हम काफ़ी इनकी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जिसके बारे में वी डोंट नो मच, एंड वी वांट टू ब्रिंग दैट टू in this interview in few questions. Now we would like to know, you have taken active participation in India-Pakistan war in 1971, and you have flown many missions. So would you like to share some memories of that time and your role into that?
Well, I had just mentioned that I was extremely fortunate and very lucky that a lot of opportunities fell in my lap. I happened to be the only guy from my batch who flew operational missions in 1971. And it happened like this, that the Indian Air Force had just acquired the MiG-21, the first supersonic aeroplane. And as usually happens, कि शुरू में जब जहाज आता है, only experienced pilots are made to fly it. So a lot of our senior pilots were sent to Russia, and they came back, and the aircraft was just about 2 to 3 years old in the inventory of the Indian Air Force when Air Headquarters realized that these senior guys will have to move up the hierarchical ladder, and they're going to become squadron commanders and station commanders. So a lot of MiG-21 cockpit vacancies are going to get empty. Who's going to fly these aeroplanes? So they said, let's catch them young. And that is about the time I had joined the Air Force, and I got this opportunity, and I was lucky enough to be selected. And there I was at the age of 21, flying the MiG-21, which was the latest fighter, and that's when the war broke out. And I happened to be correctly positioned. I was already a pilot, albeit with minimal experience, but I was on the western sector, and I was flying MiG-21s, and that's how I got to take part in the war, by flying 21 missions.
आपने MiG-21 की बात निकाली, तो MiG-21 में you had a near-death experience?
Yes, that was much later. I was the chief test pilot in, not far from here, Oja, Nashik, which is a facility which manufactures MiG-21s. And I was testing. Each aeroplane has to be tested, which has come off the production line. And each aircraft has to be taken to the ends of its operational envelope. And therefore, while I was doing one of these tests, with a slight amount of negative G, the engine backed up. And despite 2 attempts to relight the engine, it never relit. So I was losing height rapidly because the MiG-21 doesn't fly very well. It's got very thin wings, quite like the F-104 of the United States Air Force. And if I hadn't got out of the aircraft, I would have had to perish with it. So pretty low, I ejected, and on the way down, my parachute got entangled in high tension cables, and I fell from that height and broke my ankle in 4 places. But I was treated again in Pune at the Sancheti Institute here, and they fixed me up good enough for me to be back in the cockpit after 4 months. And I went back to my old job, and I continued testing for many more years.
तो अगर हमें लगता है चीफ टेस्ट पायलट होना मतलब मज़े ही मज़े हैं, तो it's not like that. Would you like to elaborate further, like आप chief test pilot, you were testing the aircraft systems, you were testing the weapon systems, and also your connection with chicken cutlets and Pune, if you can explain. Chicken cutlets and Pune.
Yeah, at that time, Pune Airport, which was, well, at that time being run only by the Indian Air Force, below the air traffic control, they had a very good canteen which used to make chicken cutlets, and we used to go to Jamnagar and other places to carry out trials. But on the way back, we made it a point to land at Pune Airport, ostensibly to refuel the aircraft, but actually to purchase those cutlets, because then when your next flight was to your home base, which was Bangalore, and the wife was very happy to see those cutlets, because then it would free her from that night's dinner. So, yeah, that was the chicken cutlet story.
हम सबको पता है that we all have heard about Gaganyaan mission. Now India is planning to put man in space, and उस Gaganyaan mission के advisor आप हैं. You are on the advisory board on the Gaganyaan mission. And so can you tell us हमें कितनी और राह देखनी पड़ेगी before we see another Indian in the space?
Yeah, what has happened is that we've selected 4 astronaut designates, and they have finished their initial training at Yuri Gagarin Space Center at Moscow, and they got back in February of last year. और इस समय वो बैंगलोर में हैं और उनकी जो ट्रेनिंग चल रही है वो सीख रहे हैं कि जो इंडियन सिस्टम्स हैं, इंडियन कैप्सूल में जब जाएंगे वो जो इंडियन मेथडोलॉजी है तो उसके बारे में उनका अध्ययन हो रहा है. सो ऐसे लगता है कि ये पहली बार हम कर रहे हैं. तो पहला ऑलरेडी हमने जो टेस्ट किया हुआ है वो ये प्रूव करने के लिए कि अगर अबॉर्ट करना पड़े ड्यूरिंग द लॉन्च वो सेफ है कि नहीं, तो वो टेस्ट हो चुका है. एंड इट हैज़ बीन डेमोन्स्ट्रेटेड बाय इसरो दैट अ पैड अबॉर्ट or an abort from the most crucial part of the launch sequence is survivable, and they have demonstrated that. रह गई बात आगे का क्या होगा, तो there are 2 more flights which will need to be done to establish repeatability and the reliability of the systems. और उम्मीद है कि इस साल के आखिर में या अगले साल you will actually see the second Indian astronaut go up into space.
हम कई बार सुनते हैं, लोग कहते हैं कि हमें चांद पे जाने की क्या ज़रूरत है. What is the purpose of establishing a center on the moon, or why we are spending so much of time and energy behind moon exploration? So can you throw some light, like why it's important to go to moon and study that further?
देखिए, एडमंड हिलरी से एक दफ़ा पूछा गया था कि आप एवरेस्ट पे क्यों चढ़े हो, तो उनका जवाब था इसलिए क्योंकि एवरेस्ट है उधर. सो रीज़न इज़ कि जो ह्यूमंस हैं उनके डीएनए में इम्प्रिंट किया गया है टू एक्सप्लोर. सो इफ देयर इज़ एनीथिंग वर्थ एक्सप्लोरिंग एंड इफ इट इज़ चैलेंजिंग इनफ, द ह्यूमंस विल ऑलवेज गो दैट वे. सो as far as the moon is concerned, well, you already know that we've been to the moon. The Americans have been to the moon, landed there. Neil Armstrong started it all. Idea is to learn about your celestial neighbors. It is not, this is the cradle of humanity is planet Earth. But today we are getting ready to leave this cradle and discover the environment, celestial environment around us. अब उसके there are many reasons for it. Planet Earth के resources आपको तो पता ही है जिस तरह से इस्तेमाल किए जा रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से पोल्यूशन बढ़ रहा है. तो माशरकर साहब ने सस्टेनेबिलिटी की भी बात की है. तो एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन, सो आजकल जो भी हम काम कर रहे हैं वो सस्टेनेबल होना चाहिए और क्लीन एनर्जी इसीलिए हम ढूंढ रहे हैं. अगर ना मिले वो तो कहीं और हमको जाना पड़ेगा और बसना पड़ेगा. और इसी वजह से it is nice that we first explore the region around to find out if we can create another habitable environment for the human race to live in. There is another problem. There are asteroids which are roaming around in space, and any asteroid can come and hit any part of Earth, so we are all at risk. So that is another reason why आजकल हम सॉफ्टवेयर का बैकअप लेते हैं पर ह्यूमन जीनोम का कोई बैकअप नहीं है. So how do we create a backup of the human genome? Only if some humans go and live elsewhere, then, and even if the planet Earth gets written off by an asteroid hit, hamara lineage will continue. So these are the various reasons. One for energy, which is being expended so fast on our planet Earth, for progress, for growth, for safety. That is why we are exploring. Plus, ये और पूछा हर वक्त पूछा जाता है कि इतना पैसे क्यों खर्च रहे हो. देखिए, इंडिया इज रनिंग द चीपेस्ट स्पेस प्रोग्राम, और अगर हम देखें स्पेस का हमने इस्तेमाल कैसे किया है, दैट इज़ योर रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट विच इज़ मच बेटर, बिकॉज इतनी जो क्वाइट लाइक व्हाट रोटरी डज, ऑल ऑफ इंडिया, आई थिंक द लाइफ, द इकोनॉमी, people's lives have been impacted due to space technology, whether it is telemedicine, teleeducation, telecommunication, connection itna ho gaya, everybody is carrying a mobile, all of this is because of satellite technology. So I think हमको टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ बढ़ना चाहिए आगे, और जैसे रोटरी कर रही है सबके लाइव्स पे इम्प्रूवमेंट आनी चाहिए, तो स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी डज दैट.
You mentioned Edmund Hillary and Neil Armstrong. We are very proud to share that both of them were Rotarians. A big round of applause for them.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
Would like to know more about, you have been an excellent sports person. In your college days, school days, you have been in sports, you have been athletic. So would you like to share something about your school days, NDA days, and how you were as a student and what you did that time?
Well, time and again, I would say that Maharashtra's played a big part. I was at the National Defence Academy, Khadakwasla, not far from here, and it was there was so much of discipline there that one always felt like getting out of the area of the classroom and getting in, have the breeze hit your face. So you played a lot of games, and I was very interested in cricket, and I was in my school cricket team, college cricket team, and I was in the NDA cricket team, and I played all the way up to services selection. Then I had to choose between flying and cricket, so I'm glad I chose flying because it sent me to space. So yes, and I do believe that because of my age and because of my level of fitness, which I gained due to my outdoor activity, whether it's, I was pretty good at gymnastics, pretty good at squash, tennis, cricket. So I was fit, physically fit because of all that. And once again, they wanted young test pilots. Once again, they chose from amongst test pilots. So I was a test pilot, I was young, I was fit due to sports, and I got to ride in space.
So you mentioned your fitness. This brings us to what has been the selection criteria, how you were selected, what were the processes, and we would love to know how this entire thing went, because the most sought after job in India went to a young man, Rakesh Sharma, for which I'm sure entire youth must be dreaming of. So how you were selected, what were the processes, what were the criteria, would you like to share?
देखिए, ऐसा था कि उस समय इलेक्शंस आने वाली थी, और इंडिया जो है बड़े नॉन अलाइंड थे, और अमेरिका वाज ऑलरेडी हेल्पिंग पाकिस्तान. सो Soviet Union put their hand out, and India had to balance that. So the Soviet Union wanted to show the world that India is one of us, because that was that ideological race going on in those days between communism and capitalism. And so उसके तहत फ्लाइट ऑफर की गई थी, और समय हो गया था, लेट हो रहा था. तो फिर उन्होंने, मिसेस गांधी ने इसरो को पूछा. इसरो said we are not interested because we are focusing on the satellite program, on the applications program, and we are trying to translate the vision of Vikram Sarabhai, whose vision was that we were a developing nation, so we had no business to be really in this domain. There were a lot of other challenges. But Vikram Sarabhai and all thought that if we use space technology, we can impact the common man. And indeed, that was their vision, which ISRO was quite busy in translating into action, which is why ISRO, instead of competing with any other nation, they only focused on building satellites and building an ecosystem to use data from space for the benefit of Indians. Like I've already mentioned, telemedicine, etc. So it has impacted positively not only the lives of Indians all over India, but it has also given us a tool with which our economy improves. So whether it is agriculture, whether it is fisheries and things, all of this data, remote sensing data, India has been able to get for itself through the help of satellites. So really that's, and then because the elections were around the corner, the Russians said, okay, since there's not much time to get your Indian crews ready for the space flight, give us test pilots. Because test pilots of the military aviation are supposed to transition easily into this high-tech environment. Space essentially is an extension of military fighter flying. So the technologies are willy-nilly the same. So that's how it happened, it transpired.
तो आपने शेयर किया था कि पढ़ाई से भागने के लिए एनडीए में आप आना चाहते थे. एनडीए में स्पोर्ट्स और फ्लाइंग के बीच में यू चोज फ्लाइंग. इसरो ने मना कर दिया, इसलिए एयरफोर्स के पास आया और टाइम कम था, इसलिए टेस्ट पायलट को चूज किया गया. सो ही वाज डेस्टिन्ड टू बी आवर फर्स्ट एवर एस्ट्रोनॉट सर. सो दिस इज हाउ इट वर्कड आउट.
वो तो मैंने पहले ही कहा था कि आई एम मोर लकी देन, और ये जो मिल रहा है मेरे को रिकग्निशन, it should really be, I'm sure that if I had entered कौन बनेगा करोड़पति, I would also probably win.
Or so maybe you would have continued cricket, you would have been in that World Cup winning team too.
Yeah.
So, what was like your training schedule, your life in USSR when you went there for the training, and what were those days?
तो आपने सिलेक्शन की बात की, तो सिलेक्शन बेसिकली यही था कि ऐसे ना हो कि आप किसी को सेलेक्ट करें और वो लॉन्च करें और वो जाके कहता मेरे दांत में दर्द हो रही, मैं काम नहीं कर सकता. तो फिजिकल फिटनेस जो है, दे कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड अ लॉट ऑन दैट. सो एवरी काइंड ऑफ मेडिकल टेस्ट नोन टू द इंडियन डॉक्टर्स वाज कैरिड आउट फॉर द एस्पिरेंट्स हु वर देयर. There were about 40-50 pilots, and one of the tests was to lock us up for 3 days in one room, in artificial light, no radio, no television, no books, no clock, only with your thoughts, basically to find out कि ये बंदा जो है ये गर्म क्लोज्ड एनवायरनमेंट में रह सकेगा या नहीं. क्योंकि अगर आप अंतरिक्ष में चले गए और यू आर ऑर्बिटिंग द अर्थ एंड यू से कि भाई बहुत हो गया, मैं वापस जाना चाहता हूँ, यू नो, दिस इज इट वाज नॉट टेनेबल. सो दीज वर द काइंड ऑफ टेस्ट व्हिच हैपेंड. एंड जब रशिया गए और मुश्किल ये हो गई कि हमें रशियन सीखनी पड़ी, रवीश मल्होत्रा को और मेरे को. हम रशियन जानते नहीं थे और सारी ट्रेनिंग, द एंटायर curriculum, the entire training was in the Russian language, and during the flight also the entire communication amongst the crew members who were flying in space, as well as the controllers, the mission control which was on the ground, the medium of communication was Russian. So that became difficult, plus foreign language, foreign country, foreign culture, complex technology relatively, and the Russian winters. We were used to the salubrious climate of Bangalore, and when we went there, we've seen -30, so quite, and the snow was about this high. Walking through the snow, it's quite like Dr. Zhivago actually.
कई बार हम देखते हैं टीवी पे दिस put you in the water tank, artificial gravity, and so these kind of things were part of your training?
No, this was not. That what you're referring to is neutral buoyancy tanks, and that is to replicate working in a zero gravity environment. So वो क्या करते हैं कि आपका जो स्पेस सूट है वो भरा रहता है, प्रेशराइज होता है, and when you put the astronaut who's under training underwater, he tends, because he's lighter, there's so much of air inside his suit, he tends to come up. So you attach weights equal to this tendency to come up to the surface, and what that does is it gives you neutral buoyancy so that you stay halfway down and you're able to work. पूरा जो मॉडल होता है स्पेसशिप का उसको भी सबमर्ज करते हैं, और उस पे जब आप काम करो तो बिल्कुल जैसे आप स्पेस में हो, क्योंकि अगर आप मंकी रेंच को घुमाओ लेफ़्ट टू राइट, अगर आप पैर किसी में ना डालो एंड यू आर हाफ वे डाउन द स्विमिंग पूल तो आपकी बॉडी घूमेगी, तो इसकी ट्रेनिंग के लिए. बट हमारा जो फ्लाइट था 8 days फ्लाइट, सारे एक्सपेरिमेंट्स हमने जो किए हैं वो उसके अंदर ही रह कर किए हैं, बिकॉज दे वर साइंटिफिक एक्सपेरिमेंट्स. तो एक्स्ट्रा वेहिकुलर एक्टिविटी जो है वो एस्ट्रोनॉट्स स्पेसशिप के बाहर जाते हैं, सोलर एरे पैनल्स को रिपेयर करना, सम एंटेना विच हैज़ टू बी रिप्लेस्ड, सो इन चीज़ों के लिए रिपेयर वर्क के लिए जाते हैं. सो इट इज़ अ लॉट मोर हैजर्डस, यू नीड मोर ट्रेनिंग फॉर दैट काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. सो वो हमने नहीं की. सो आई एम नॉट ट्रेन. माई ट्रेनिंग वॉज ओनली टू प्रिपेयर मी टू फेस ज़ीरो ग्रेविटी, फिजियोलॉजिकली चेयर के ऊपर घुमाना, वेस्टिबुलर कंडीशनिंग होना, बिकॉज यू फील स्पेस सिक. लॉट ऑफ पीपल डू फील स्पेस सिक.
हम तो वो है जो अम्यूजमेंट पार्क की कोई राइड में बैठ गए हो गलती से डरावनी, तो भी हम मतलब राइड में बीच में 4 कसमें खा लेते कि आज के बाद नहीं बैठेंगे, भगवान याद आ जाते हैं, सब होता है. और आप जब स्पेस के लिए लिफ्ट ऑफ करते हैं, या तो व्हेन यू एंटर्ड बैक, सो व्हाट वाज स्केरियर, लाइक गोइंग फ्रॉम हियर, what was the emotions when that fire starts and the countdown starts, how you feel inside?
Actually it depends on what your mindset, mental makeup is. मेरा mental makeup ये था कि अब जब मैं फाइटर एयरक्राफ्ट में बैठता हूँ और ब्रेक्स रिलीज़ करता हूँ टेक ऑफ के लिए, दिल धड़क धड़क करता है, क्योंकि you have signed for this 20 crore aeroplane and you're a professional and you're taking off, and if you create any mistake, you can't hide the wreckage, you see. Everybody comes to know. So your professional reputation is on the line. So you are a bit more nervous because of that. Whereas I looked at it like this, that your space flight is being controlled by computers and you have no control over the computers. So if you cannot control a computer, why sit and worry? Because worry will only degrade your performance. If you're required to act in an emergency, then if you're worrying, then you're not 100% there. So I just said, chala gaya to chala gaya. 128 guys have gone and come back. मैं भी ऐसे ही होऊंगा. So that's what. But वापसी पे, yes. तभी जब पैराशूट खुला और वो मेटल रिंग है वो घस रही थी एक कैप्सूल के साथ, आवाज़ अंदर वो, क्योंकि इट इज़ शेप्ड लाइक अ बेल, आवाज़ अंदर बड़े भयंकर सा था. मैं सोचा कि ये पैराशूट तो उड़ जाएगा और ख़त्म हो जाएंगे हम, तब थोड़ा सा डर लगा.
So once you came back, तो सबसे पहला काम क्या किया, मतलब what happened? You were taken out, you were separated, isolated. How the process goes once the astronaut comes back?
तो
8 दिन के लिए for 8 days you have not used your muscles because everything is weightless. So if you want to go from one end of the spaceship to the other, you don't walk. You just push the wall here and you fly across like Superman. So it is like if you lie in bed for 8 days without lifting anything, then after 8 days your muscle tone, you tend to lose your muscle tone, and the heart is also a muscle. So you get deconditioned, and there are a lot of blood flow changes that happen because of lack of gravity. So the heart is pumping less blood to the head because it does not have to pump against gravity. So as a result, what happens is that when you return back, everything happens in reverse. The heart now is ticking over slowly, thinking that you're still in space. Whereas because you're back on Earth, there is gravity, so you start to feel lightheaded for the first 48 hours or so. But the human body, all the medical specialists here will know, is a wonderful system, organism. It has got its self-correct systems. So it recognizes that the need for blood to go up has come up again, so the heart rate again increases. So that is the period of adaptation to zero gravity and the reverse period of readaptation to Earth's gravity. So that takes about two days or so.
So you were in space. While you were in space, what was your daily schedule? Like you're getting up, working, खाना पीना, moving around, like पूरा आपका कुछ pre-planned structure था, or it was like tasks were given and you were supposed to do it the way you want? How your day was in space?
Well, Sundays were not holidays. Because every minute, it's such an expensive activity that absolutely every minute your whole day's work was curated. So we had to accomplish X number of experiments. It requires to set up the experiments, to do the experiments, to note down the data, to remove the apparatus back, set up another thing. But the most, I would say, the most difficult thing was to suddenly stop doing your professional work and be ready for a video interview with the Raksha Mantri or with the Prime Minister. Now these are things you're not trained for, you're not used to, so that used to be a bit daunting. But then again, once that is over, switch back to work. So, and you'll be surprised that there was no jet lag, although you were crossing so many time zones, because you launch on a particular standard time, and in our case it was Moscow Standard Time, and you continue working on the same clock. So the circadian rhythm, the body clock does not have to reset. So that wasn't a challenge. But every minute. So when I get asked, would you like to go again into space? My answer is yes, but as a tourist, then you can sit near the window and watch the beauty, which we didn't have time for.
खाने पीने की choice मिलती है sir. What do you wish to carry? Do they ask?
Yeah, but only we could choose from only 80 dishes, 80. तो तरह के dishes there. What they do is they try to, जब आप ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हो, ये पता लगा लेते हैं कि भाई इसको क्या पसंद है, और वो पूरी कोशिश करते हैं कि वही डिशेस अवेलेबल हों. सो आपको क्या करना पड़ता है, जो आप खाना चाहते हैं वो निकालो, एक छोटा ओवन होता है, उसमें गरम करो और खाओ. सो दैट वाज, ईटिंग वाज नो प्रॉब्लम, एंड lot of your taste buds change in space because there's not enough blood going, so you like to take more and more, like mustard, for example. You want a bit of spice, a bit of mustard. So that sort of, those changes happen. But food, eating food was no problem. It wasn't, usually समझा जाता है science fiction में that you pop a pill. नहीं, pill regular खाना होता है, because psychologically also that is more satisfying.
You are not just India's first astronaut. I think you must be the first ever to use a video call. Because before your video call, we had not seen video calls ever. So when he video called from space to our then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, have you ever imagined that clip, that your answer will become such a legend and it will be played again and again and again for generations to come? So how was your thought process at that time when you were answering the question?
देखिए उस समय I must tell you that Mrs. Gandhi could see us. There was only a downlink of the video. There was no uplink. So the crew could see Mrs. Gandhi. और शायद इसीलिए मैं इतना नर्वस नहीं था जितना होना चाहिए था, because I could see her. So जब उन्होंने पूछा, जब हम स्कूल में हुआ करते थे तो नेशनल एंथम के बाद ये गाना गाते थे, सारे जहां से अच्छा. सो और जब उन्होंने पूछा कि वहाँ से भारत कैसे दिखाई देता है, अभी इट वाज जस्ट टॉप ऑफ द रिकॉल, because our country does look beautiful, as does the African continent, South America. I can't talk much about the northern hemisphere and Europe and all of that was under clouds at that time, so we couldn't see much of it. But in our country, if you think back, हमारे यहाँ क्या नहीं है? The coastline is huge. We've got plains, we've got carts, we've got deserts, we've got tropical rainforests in the east, we've got the Himalayas. And when you're flying past all of this happens, you get to see various colors and various textures, one following the other in succession. So it's really a beautiful sight when you have the time to see. Most of the time we were working.
So he's actually putting very humbly that, but just imagine putting yourself in a spacecraft, right, and leaving the planet, being a test pilot and testing the aircraft which nobody has tested before. So it really requires a kind of motto that you put your service before yourself. And service before yourself is something that we Rotarians also vouch by. So today you've been a part of this conference, you've seen the kind of work that we do. To conclude this interview, would you like to give some message to all of us Rotarians here?
Well, the National Defence Academy's motto is also service before self, right? So, and it has been my experience. मेरे को जब ही तो मैंने उसका जिक्र किया था कि जब आपके हाथ पे नेशन का झंडा होगा तो आपको डर वर तो चाहिए, ये करना है सो करना है. So it becomes duty bound. So service before self, irrespective of the risks, etc. So what I found is that when you choose a purpose higher than yourself, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the community. You're doing it for disadvantaged people. Then you discover reserves of energy you never knew you had, because you're doing it for somebody else. उन्होंने कहानी तो बताई थी ना आपको कि बस इतना ये you're not very happy, you've got enough money and you're still unhappy, but when you're giving, it's a different kind of happiness, as Dr. Mashlekar had also mentioned. So I think what you people are doing, you're very lucky to be doing that, because you must be noting the happiness you all give, your actions give to the people who otherwise would have not been, who have not been as lucky as you in their own lives, and they're leading very, very unprivileged lives, shall we say. So we are all very, very privileged to be where we are, and to give back to society is really to do something by choosing a job which is higher than your own self. And once you do that, I think you'll be able to achieve anything.
So to conclude, on behalf of all of us, I would like to say we salute you and we say thank you for your service to the nation, which created a hope for so many generations to come. So thank you very much for being here. We are so proud and we are so fortunate that you shared this stage with us. Thank you so much for being here, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
I request RIPR, District Governor Manju and Vishwas to kindly come up on the stage to felicitate Rakesh Sharma ji and also Jignesh Pandya.